Have you ever stopped to think that the decision that seems most responsible when buying a car might be the one that most harms your financial life without making a sound? That choice that everyone praises, that the family approves of, that the salesperson encourages, and that even gives a feeling of personal victory. The brand new car, 0 kilometers, shining in the dealership, with the smell of newness, the promise of comfort, status, and, above all, the idea that now you've done the right thing. But what if that's precisely where the mistake begins? Have you ever experienced this? Because, let's be honest, few moments generate as much satisfaction as driving a new car for the first time. It's as if it represents progress, maturity, success. The mind associates a brand new car with safety, less maintenance, less headache, less worry. It seems like a smart, planned, adult decision. And that's exactly why almost no one questions what's behind this choice. What you're about to discover may surprise you, because the problem isn't the car itself, but how it fits into your financial life. In practice, the perfect car is usually the first to push you out of the 4-20-10 rule without any alarm bells ringing. It all happens silently. The conversation doesn't revolve around the total price, nor the real impact on your assets. The focus is always on the monthly payment, on that classic phrase, "It fits in your budget." And when you hear that, your mind relaxes. After all, if the payment fits, then everything is under control, right? Stick with me until the end, because this is where almost everyone falls. The new car industry is an expert at transforming an emotional decision into something that seems extremely rational. The numbers are presented in a comfortable way, the deadlines are extended, the down payment decreases, and the monthly commitment seems harmless. All of this creates a dangerous sense of financial security. But while you focus on the payment, the 4-20-10 rule is gradually broken, almost as if it didn't exist. And the most curious thing is that this happens precisely to organized people who consider themselves responsible with money. Perhaps you've already experienced this scenario, or you're in it right now, considering changing cars and thinking that now it makes sense, that now you deserve it, that now you're more stable. This narrative is powerful. It convinces, comforts, and pushes the decision forward without room for deeper questioning. But the real cost of this choice doesn't appear in the first month or even the second. It emerges over time, when the budget gets tight, when other goals are postponed, when the feeling of financial freedom begins to diminish. And that's precisely why understanding what really happens when you choose a new car is so important. Not to demonize the dream, nor to say that nobody should buy a brand new car, but to reveal what is almost never explained before signing the contract. From here, the conversation starts to become clearer. Because before talking about numbers, rules, and strategies, it's necessary to see what's hidden behind that feeling of a perfect decision. And while you listen to all this, it's worth taking a quick break to look inward and honestly ask yourself, does this make sense in relation to your reality? Because if at any point in this conversation you recognized yourself, remembered a similar situation, or felt that silent discomfort of someone who has already experienced something like this, leave it here in the comments. Sharing your experience, your doubt, or even that feeling that got stuck in your throat helps much more than you imagine. Not only for me, but for other people who are watching and perhaps still don't have the courage to admit that they went through the same thing. This kind of exchange creates a real community where no one is here to judge, but to learn together. And when you comment, like the video, or subscribe to the channel, it's not just an automatic gesture. It's a sign that this type of content needs to continue to exist. That talking about real financial decisions, the way they happen in real life, makes a difference. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people who are exactly at this point in their journey, trying to make better decisions without falling into traps disguised as smart choices. So, if this topic touched on something important to you, leave a like as a way to support this message and subscribe to continue following these conversations that almost never happen honestly. This helps the algorithm understand that this content deserves to be delivered to more people. But, more than that, it helps build a space where we can talk about money without shame, without fantasy, and without empty promises. And stick with me, because now that this foundation is clear, we need to delve a little deeper to to understand exactly where this rule begins to be broken without anyone noticing, and why so many decisions that seem normal end up creating a financial burden that lasts much longer than the pleasure of a new car. When we talk about the 4-20-10 rule applied to cars, many people imagine something complicated, full of calculations, spreadsheets, and difficult numbers. But the truth is that the essence of this rule is much simpler than it seems. It exists to protect your financial mindset from decisions that, little by little, will drain your freedom without you realizing it. The problem is that, in real life, almost no one consciously breaks this rule. It's not an act of irresponsibility, nor a lack of character, nor a lack of intelligence. It's a direct result of a system designed to lead you exactly to this point. It all starts very subtly. The conversation never revolves around the real impact of the purchase, but rather immediate comfort. The salesperson doesn't talk about healthy limits, balanced decisions, or long-term financial transformation. They talk about extended installments, easy down payments, and a monthly amount that doesn't weigh you down. And when you accept this game, the 24-10 rule begins to be broken without any alarm bells ringing. There's no clear moment of, now you've gone overboard. There's only a small adjustment here, a longer term there, a smaller down payment over there. When you realize it, the commitment has already been made. The most dangerous thing is that all of this comes packaged as a mature decision. You feel like you're doing what any responsible adult would do. You're buying a new car, financing it in an organized way, paying on time. But behind the scenes of this choice, the real impact has already begun. Overly long installments create a false sense of control, while compromising a part of your future that you haven't even seen yet. It's as if the financial journey is being pushed to later, always later, while the present seems comfortable. The 4-20-10 rule ceases to exist not because you decided to ignore it, but because it was never presented as part of the conversation. The new car sales model wasn't designed to help you make better decisions, but to make the decision easier now. And immediate ease almost always comes at a silent price later on. The hidden truth is that the new car doesn't abruptly push you out of the rule. It seduces, guides, and normalizes choices that individually seem harmless, but together create a profound impact on your wealth building. And it's at this point that a lot of things start to make sense. That feeling of always being behind, of never being able to advance as you'd like, of seeing other goals being postponed without knowing exactly why. It's not a lack of effort. It's the weight of consumer decisions that seem small, but shape your entire financial mindset. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because understanding how this breakdown happens in practice is the first step to seeing choices that seem normal today, but that hide much greater consequences than they appear. If any of this relates to something you've experienced or are experiencing now, comment below. That makes sense to me. There's a specific moment when almost everything is lost, and it's so common that it goes unnoticed. It's when the decision stops being about the car and becomes solely about the payment. The phrase, "it fits in my budget," sounds like a relief, almost a seal of moral approval. If it fits in, then it's safe. If it fits, then it's under control. But this is one of the most dangerous hidden truths of modern consumerism, because the payment doesn't tell the whole story. It only tells the part that's important to close the deal. In everyday life, this happens in a very similar way for almost everyone. You walk into the dealership with a vague idea of the budget, chat for a few minutes, feel the excitement growing, and suddenly the total amount disappears from the conversation. The focus narrows. The number that matters is the one that appears every month, small enough not to scare you, and the mind does the rest of the work on its own. Compares the installment with smaller expenses, fits it into the current budget, rationalized. That's all there is to it each month. The problem is that behind the scenes of this decision, other layers continue to operate, invisibly. While the installment payment seems harmless, the total cost grows silently. Interest spread over time. Yes, accelerated depreciation in the first few years, more expensive mandatory insurance, taxes, maintenance that arrives sooner than you imagine. None of this appears when the salesperson rotates the screen and points to the monthly amount. And it doesn't appear because it doesn't need to. The trap works precisely because attention has been trained to look only at one point. The entire journey remains outside the frame. This dynamic creates a profound psychological impact. You start to feel Organized because you pay on time, disciplined because you honor commitments, responsible because you haven't missed a single payment. But at the same time, you feel that something isn't progressing. Projects become more distant. Decisions need to be postponed. The margin of choice diminishes. It's a silent pain, difficult to explain, because there doesn't seem to be an obvious mistake. Everything was done right. And yet, the weight is still there. Now I want to delve even deeper into subject, because this logic of installments doesn't just affect car purchases, it shapes mindset. Gradually, the decision-making reference point shifts from real-world impact to immediate comfort. And when that happens, important choices begin to be guided by a yardstick that's too narrow. The total cost ceases to be perceived as a whole and becomes a fragmented sum of small commitments that seem isolated, but together paint a very different picture than imagined. Perhaps you've already experienced exactly this. Looking back and realizing you paid far more than you planned for something that's no longer worth the same, while other goals were left behind. Not for lack of effort, but because the decision was built on an incomplete vision. This is the revelation that disturbs, but also liberates. Understanding that the problem wasn't you, but rather the wrong focus from the beginning. If this reflection resonated with you, leave a comment below. I'm on this journey too. There's a truth that almost never comes up in conversations about new cars, and it only becomes clear when we shift our focus from the short term and start to see the journey as a whole. A new car doesn't sabotage your assets because it's a bad object, nor because buying something new is a financial sin. It becomes a problem when it enters your life as a long-term decision disguised as immediate comfort. And that's where the real impact lies, the one that doesn't appear in the first few months, but reveals itself forcefully over the years. When you combine two very specific things, rapid depreciation and long-term financing, you create a silent and dangerous effect. The car loses value from the first day it leaves the dealership, but the debt remains firm, constant, almost intact for quite some time. In practice, this means paying dearly for something that, month after month, is worth less than what you still owe. It's a misalignment between value and debt that erodes assets silently. Because everything seems normal on the outside, this is a point that completely changes your mindset when truly understood. While you're making regular payments, you feel stable. But behind the scenes, the money that could be building something lasting is being used to sustain an asset that doesn't behave like an investment. There's no growth, no multiplication, no financial transformation. There's only the maintenance of a pattern that consumes resources and limits future choices. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because this effect isn't just about numbers. It affects decisions, freedom, and the rhythm of your financial life. The more time you spend committed to something that quickly loses value, the less room there is for opportunities that could generate a positive long-term impact. Projects become more distant, safety margins shrink, and the feeling of always being in a running game becomes part of the routine. And notice how this connects with so many real stories. People who earn more over time but can't advance. Who work hard but feel that their wealth doesn't keep pace with their effort. Often, it's not a lack of discipline or intelligence. It's the accumulated weight of decisions that seem normal, socially acceptable, but that don't align with a long-term vision. The new car, in this context, becomes a symbol of immediate achievement that exacts an invisible price later. When you start to see this dynamic, something changes. The conversation stops being about personal taste and starts being about strategy. The problem was never the car itself, but the role it plays in your financial journey. Understanding this doesn't take away the pleasure of achieving things, but it brings awareness of when a choice is working for or against you. And this clarity is one of the greatest revelations someone can have when they decide to build wealth intentionally. If this part made you rethink any past or future decisions, comment below. That makes sense to me. After seeing all this more clearly, a natural question arises. Is there a way to escape this trap without giving up the pleasure of owning a car? And the answer is yes. As long as the decision stops being guided by the emotion of the moment and becomes part of a larger strategy. The 4-20-10 rule wasn't created to punish desires or to turn financial life into a sequence of no's. It exists to protect the future, to prevent a choice made today from robbing important options tomorrow. When you look at this rule with the right mindset, you realize it acts as a filter for decisions. It doesn't tell you which car you should buy, but under what conditions that purchase ceases to be an invisible burden. Instead of focusing only on the immediate feeling, the rule invites you to see the impact throughout the journey. This changes everything. The car ceases to be a symbol of momentary status and begins to occupy a place compatible with building wealth and financial freedom. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because applying the 4-20-10 rule isn't just a matter of mathematics, it's a mindset transformation. It's about understanding that not every comfortable choice is strategic, and that some intelligent decisions require patience and a long-term vision. When you respect healthy limits, money starts working in your favor instead of just supporting commitments. The feeling of control increases, anxiety decreases, and decisions become more coherent. Between the present and the future, there's a little discussed truth behind the scenes of personal finance. Many people don't work to live better. They work to maintain choices made without awareness. A car, when poorly positioned in one's financial life, becomes an anchor disguised as an achievement. The 24-10 rule breaks this silent cycle. It restores intention to decisions, creates space for unforeseen events, and allows growth to come in a more solid and sustainable way. And most importantly, understand that there are smarter, more realistic choices aligned with different stages of life. Not everything needs to happen right now. Not every desire needs to be fulfilled immediately. When you learn to use the rule as an ally, you realize it doesn't take away any pleasure. It simply prevents you from working years of your life to support something that should serve you, not the other way around. This awareness is the first step to getting out of autopilot and taking control of your own financial journey. If this insight brought more clarity to your life, leave a comment below. I'm on this journey too. If you've made it this far, it's because this conversation really made sense on some level, and that to me says a lot. If this content helped you see decisions that previously seemed normal from a different angle, consider subscribing to the channel. The idea here is to continue talking about money the way it happens in real life, without magic formulas, but with clarity, awareness, and smarter choices along the way. If you'd like, leave a comment saying you made it to the end. You can write something simple, like "I'm with you until the end," or "This message was for me. I read and follow along." And that helps keep this space alive, with people who truly want to improve their financial situation without falling into silent traps. And if at any point in this conversation you felt you created a connection, like is a simple way to show it, as well as helping the video reach more people who need to hear this kind of reflection. And if you want to continue along this line of reasoning, there's a video over here that complements this topic exactly. Click and continue reading there.